Hello, my name is Tiffany Ayers, and I'm here to do hopefully the first of many informational sessions for the Big Macher. This first information session is on Django Unchained by Quentin Tarantino, and my first bit of research led me to IMDb, where I read the cast and crew information and the trivia bits that they had there. And interestingly enough, I learned that Django and his wife Brunhilde, their last name is supposed to be Von Shaft. Tarantino added this information to point to the fact that they are actually the great-great-great-grandparents of John Shaft, so that there is a connection between those two films. And interestingly enough, Samuel L. Jackson starred in the reboot of the Shaft film some years ago. This led me to do a little bit of research on the movie Shaft. And so I went to the Time magazine website and read an article where the author considered the fact that Shaft would actually be thought of as a thug and an abusive police officer through his actions, and that the intended audience for Shaft would actually be protesting his actions. After reading this article, I thought that I would look up a little information on police brutality. And so I read a New York Times editorial that covered the death of Robert Saylor, a 26-year-old man with Down syndrome. The incident there was that he had just left a viewing of Zero Dark 30, and he was waiting on his aide to pick him up in the theater lobby, and some police officers told him to leave. He refused, and so they detained him and used some force and pinned him to the floor. He cried for his mother, and after just a few minutes he asphyxiated and subsequently died. And so the thought is that these officers used a little too much aggression towards someone who has a mental disability, and they need to be properly trained, and they also need to be more aware of what is the actual threats in these situations. So that got me to thinking about the Aurora, Colorado theater shootings involving the Dark Knight Rises movie. And so I looked up an article in USA Today by Brian Truitt, which covers the different security measures that have been taken since the events where James Holmes shot into the theater. So this led me to looking up the results of violence in media research. I found an article on Wikipedia that says that it is incomplete research due to the fact that they cannot pinpoint whether these individuals that are in the studies have lived a violent childhood or have been subjected to some sort of violence that would cause them to act a certain way, and therefore they can't prove that it was actually what they were viewing or what they were playing that causes a resulted violence, and not these prior events that have nothing to do with the research. So this comes back around to Django itself, which is a violent film, as is most Tarantino films, and somewhat unfactual in historical terms. I enjoyed the film, but I did become disturbed at the violence and the racism inherent. But something that needs to be remembered when watching a Tarantino film in particular is that he is there to provoke, whether it's a shock value provoking action or a provocation onto thinking about what happened during slavery. Hopefully you went back and thought about the fact of, well, did this actually happen during slavery? And perhaps you found out that many of these things did happen, and some that were worse than this that were not covered in Tarantino's film. So I will end in saying that I hope that you enjoyed the information that I found, and I hope that it helps you in discovering what you need to discover. Please let me know if you need my help again. Thank you.